Welcome back, Mind Your Biz audience. My name is Seth, and I've got another treat for you, another gem in the Creator Highlight series. Now we're going on a few years of what I call a good friendship. Chris Rice from Rice TV X. Let me tell you a little about this man. If you don't already know him, and I'd be surprised if you didn't, but if you don't, you should, and here's why. Rice has interviewed John McAfee more than half dozen times. Was the first to be interviewed and to interview his widow, Janice McAfee. Was the first to initiate the alarm and get the warning bell going, blow the whistle, and help bring the community together to get the authorities that are holding John McAfee's remains to be responsive to his widow's pleas for cooperation, and has been so deeply involved not only in the cryptocurrency advocacy space and independent publishing, but also in the freedom space, in the sound money space, and in so many other very near and dear topics for those of us who are into cryptocurrency, genuinely for the tech and genuinely for its social and political promises. Rice, welcome to Mind Your Biz.
Thank you, man. And thank you for that introduction. I appreciate that. That was definitely sounded like something from somebody who knows who I am.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, man. What I didn't mention there also is that I owe what I feel is a huge personal debt of gratitude to Rice for spending time with me. He knows, like we've talked offline about some huge social changes that I'm undergoing personally with my family, a lot of deprogramming from a very rigid upbringing and childhood, and we had the pleasure of being able to spend multiple days together in Austin, Texas, and be able to talk through certain things, spend time in new places with new people, doing new things and having new experiences. And as you know, sometimes those pattern interrupts are so necessary, and I really do mean that. Like I really owe you a lot of gratitude.
I mean, I appreciate you saying that, and I feel the same way. And Austin, now that I'm mentioning it, or that you mentioned it, that was our first and only time actually meeting in person, right?
Actually, yeah, in person.
Yeah, and if that is actually 100% correct, which I think it is, it's surreal to even think about. We stayed in an Airbnb together, but we've known each other for several years, so it didn't feel like the first time, even though it was the first time.
That's what she said. Yeah, right. So yeah,
I'm thinking about the song too. Feels like the first time.
Right. Yeah, man. So it was a great time, and I really do mean that. Mind Your Biz audience. So like I got to see up close and personal who this person really is, right? Who Rice really is in terms of a person who is like has that fire in his belly for freedom and will get in your face if he thinks that you're an enemy to freedom, and will go and be a person who's a shoulder to lean on and a shoulder to cry on for people who genuinely need more freedom. Like that's legit who you really are. I think I got a chance to see that up close, and it's you can't fake that. So yeah, appreciate it.
You get to see some good and bad. So we're not perfect.
No, nobody is, man, right? And so no, that said as well, like there was a reason that Janice McAfee, that she could have only done her first public interview with Rice, and I think that was my comment on Twitter as well. Like there's nobody else that could have been that guy or been that gal for the widow of John McAfee. Like that's a big pair of shoes to fill, my friend, and you do it very well. So
thank you.
Yeah. So
that real quick, that was an honor. I mean, it wasn't her first interview, but it was her first public interview since the passing of her husband. And there's a foundation being formed in the background, and some people that were working with the foundation that were working with Janice with this had suggested me to help her to get ready for interviews. So they wanted me to help coach her, kind of almost they were putting it as being a sparring partner. So the interview that came out, the first interview, because I did 2 actual full interviews, one that came out a few weeks ago, but the first interview is actually the 4th recorded interview that we did because of me trying to help her out, trying to, and it's the first time I've ever done this, but just try to really shape the interview to be a lot more effective for what we were trying to gain from the audience, what we were trying to bring attention to, which is the fact that even today, recording this on the 29th of September, that John's body still hasn't been released. I messaged Janice the end of last week, and she's expecting news anytime soon. So as soon as I get some news, I'll update you. And then the other thing with the reason part of that came about too is you mentioned that I interviewed John a lot. I actually had not time wise, but I did more interviews with John than anybody else. There's a couple people that were writing books or that were interviewing for movies, and they had longer time with John, but they weren't publicly released interviews or anything like that. So that was one of the reasons why Janice wanted to have me involved as well, because of the relationship that I had developed with John.
That's awesome. Yeah, that level of trust. I mean, it's another one of those things you can't fake and you can't buy it, right? So, and in the end, clearly that's what mattered, right? Not the media time that was bought to prepare for a book. And that's nothing against biographers or people who are working on these projects, but it is a very different relationship. So, like, again, you have my kudos, you have my respect for that. Like, you are a person that the world needs in it, right? Giving your message the way that only you can. So that's my idea of Rice in a nutshell. Why don't Rice, for the benefit of the Mind Your Biz audience who hasn't met you in person or anything, why don't you tell them, like, who is Rice and what is Rice TV in a nutshell?
Okay. All right. So when I first started my channel, it was Rice Crypto. I did that January of 2018. I was talking about cryptocurrency, blockchain, economics, and also bringing attention to what voluntarism and anarchy are. Now, throughout the course of 2020, I stopped educating people about the anarchy stuff because of what was happening on mainstream news with socially accepted definitions of what the word means versus what it actually means and why I was promoting those philosophies. And then I started restructuring my channel, adding in extra elements, which was a show called Stranger Than Fiction. And I'm potentially going to be starting a new channel. I'm going to try to keep this quick. So Stranger Than Fiction was the branch out. And that's when I started talking about fringe topics, things that are unproven, history, spirituality, law. And then I rebranded to Rice TVX because I felt Rice Crypto was very limiting to my content. So Rice TVX has 3 shows on one channel. The Rice Crypto show covering crypto and blockchain, the Rice Report covering economics, politics, current events, and then Stranger Than Fiction for the fringe topics, the conspiracy stuff, history, and everything else I mentioned. And that realm of content and that show, I'm thinking about branching out with a new channel here soon, and I'll keep everybody updated about that.
Phenomenal, and I'm looking forward to it. I firmly believe, and you know this is true based on our conversations, that you can't actually become a genuine fan of cryptocurrency and sovereign holding of hard assets in a cryptocurrency and in blockchain tech without eventually having to become interested in those other topics. So I think it's phenomenal that you're at the forefront of that and you're helping to pioneer that for people who are right now. They're like, okay, maybe I can trade this Shiba Inu or whatever, and they don't know yet that those like early exercises in holding their own coins and tokens and stuff could help become the gateway to making them actually free at some point in the future.
100%.
So, yeah, so I really appreciate the direction that you're going there, and man, I'm here for it. That's exciting. Let me ask, before you got into crypto, you mentioned January 2018. I think end of 2018, we might have both been at World CryptoCon in Las Vegas together. In end of 2018, almost 4 years ago this month. That would
have been the first World CryptoCon. So we did meet then?
So I don't know that we actually met. I think we were both there. So okay. I think it was a big conference. It was, bigger than I expected. And yeah, I didn't go to any influencer events. Wendy held a mixer that I didn't go to. Very shy. Ken was super cool. I think
it was holiday. It was Halloween weekend because they were doing the World CryptoCons around Halloween because that is the birthday of the Bitcoin white paper.
Yeah.
And during the first World CryptoCon, I met Charlie Lee. He was waiting in line at the conference to get his pass, which I thought was really interesting. I also met Adam Charles for the very first time, a mutual friend of ours. And that's where he was dressed as Ken Bozak for Halloween.
Wow.
There was actually a party that he went to dressed as Ken Bozak and got in. And Ken Bozak was telling the people at the door that he wasn't wearing a costume and they wouldn't let him in because of the dress code. But they let Adam dressed as Ken get in.
That's great.
Yeah, funny story.
It's like typical of both of them too. We're like Ken
Sorry for
getting
the
harassed.
tangent.
Yeah, no, it's hilarious though. So these are shared experiences, and this is why in real like IRL events matter. This is why going to in-person events it does matter. Like you're able to anchor the interest that you have in cryptocurrency or whatever it is that you're going to do with a new set of friends that aren't going to judge you for it, and you can talk to after the fact because your friends right now, like if you're new to cryptocurrency and you're tuning into this for whatever reason, or if you're new to like voluntarism and some of the other topics that were mentioned by Rice, then you bring this back to your friends and family, and the first thing they say is, "Yeah, that's crazy." Like, and they don't talk to you anymore about it, right? Like you get shut down. So you do actually need to find new people, places, and things to discuss some of these ideas, unfortunately. And yeah, IRL events, they fit the bill. So
They do.
Yeah, but let me ask you, before January 2018, paint a picture for us of who is Rice. What does he do before he thinks about cryptocurrency? And yeah, who was that guy?
Early in my life, I would go back to maybe my teenage years as a starting point, and I'm not going to give you like a novel or anything, but music was very important to me. I sang in bands, really thought that I was going to have a long-term or at least a career in music, and I really devoted everything that I was doing towards that. I had a child born in 2000 and moved down to North Carolina, had some problems with the band, ended up breaking up ultimately. Somehow when I got down in North Carolina, because it was a very smaller, I'm originally from Northern Virginia near the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. And where I moved, it's a lot smaller of an area, and I was doing concert promotions and things like that. Didn't really have a lot of opportunity because of other people doing that. I accidentally fell into DJing in gentlemen's clubs, and I did that for about 20 years. Not straight 100% all the time, but throughout 20 years, I would say about 18 years I worked in that industry. As a musician, I love music. The other stuff, some people are like, that sounds great, but in reality, it's not so great.
It's a job, right? What job is perfect, right? Like,
now, one of the things though for me, and this it was a precursor to crypto, was I wouldn't say I was anti-government, but I was just anti-trusting, and I like to do as many things I could off the books and under the table. And I got paid under the table in a lot of my jobs. So I didn't have, I technically didn't work. And I encourage, any sort of government agency to want to prove it, because they really can't.
Right.
But the point being is that I was already kind of living this way of trying to obfuscate from the system and be more free as much as I could in what I considered to be a free market kind of situation. So, and then I started going to school for business administration. And that's when I started really learning about different things when it comes to money and currency. And then I started doing some alternate research while I was going to school, finding out what I was being taught in school was incorrect based off of other information that I was learning. And I was questioning my teachers, but I had a high GPA. Up until my final semester, I was a 4.0. And I went back to school at like 39, 40 years old. I'm 47 now. So
right on.
Pretty proud of that accomplishment. But it just really woke me up to the realities of the world, between working in a gentleman's club and going to school for business administration, and then going down the rabbit hole and learning about the creation of the Federal Reserve, understanding the history of money, and then money versus currency, and then cryptocurrency came in my life, and it was a perfect answer.
That's phenomenal. Okay, so so it sounds like it was the perfect dovetail then for you to be like, all right, this foundational knowledge, like you said, the value of $1, the value of a tax dollar, the value of tracking $1, the value of a printed dollar, the value of a fractionally reserved dollar, and the value of some kind of a hard backed dollar, and then you discover cryptocurrency.
Now, with the education thing, now I want to say that not all the teachers necessarily were bad, because there was a teacher that said something to me that really struck a chord, and that's what really, I think, invigorated me, which was the system, like the legacy traditional finance system that we deal with, is designed for you to lose purchasing power if you decide to save. So it de-incentivizes people that save, because it's all based on debt.
Yeah, I've heard Robert Kiyosaki use the phrase "savers are losers." That's got to be what he's talking about. So
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, you could see that if you would have had money in, let's say, $10,000 in a bank at December of 2019, you would have, if you would have purchased whatever you were planning on purchasing with that said saved money right before you put it in the bank, you would have gotten more for your dollar than if you would have actually taken that money out of savings in the past 6 months and tried to purchase said item.
Yeah,
see what I'm saying?
No, definitely.
Especially because of what transpired over the past few years with this high form of inflation that we're dealing with.
Yeah, well, it does seem like CPI, I mean, as of the time of recording, right, September 29th, 2022, it seems like CPI is kind of a false metric. What we're seeing at the gas pump and at the grocery store, or the grocery counter, is like not at all the numbers that they're saying. And then some other stuff like rents in certain areas, like rents are not totally reflective of the numbers that they're saying.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so like it does seem like on the ground, that's totally right. The purchasing power of the dollar is just getting hammered. So,
well, and not only that, though, and since you mentioned the date too, so yesterday the Bank of England, they kind of reversed course with their quantitative tightening schedule, and it looks like they're going into more of quantitative easing. Other nations are now talking about doing the same thing, because when you see in the dollar, the DXY chart be strong and it's going up and it's parabolic like it's been kind of running, the comparative measure to that is all the other fiat currencies.
wow.
So the dollar's up that much, then imagine and other nations are going to start kind of getting pissed off at the United States because it's going to mess up. It's part of what's causing the problems in Europe.
Yeah.
But it's this almost a banker battle that's going on between like the ECB and the European Central Bank and the Federal Reserve.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No, that's it's unreal. Yeah. Lest we, jump too deep into the current news. Like, yeah, I can see how just focusing on that side for a while would have got you interested in cryptocurrencies, and based on our conversations about money versus currency and coin versus specie, for example, and some of the other the words have meaning, right? And I try to educate myself so that I'm not misspeaking most of the time, but it's very easy to misspeak in that area. Like, you do have to get quite a bit more education before you can speak competently about money and currencies.
And I think too, and I'm sure you can agree, the more that you're able to interview people in those type of different niches that we're talking about in different areas, like especially macroeconomics and different traders, like talking to people like Gareth Soloway, and then someone like Lynette Zhang, they both kind of come from a similar background, but they look at things different. So I try to look at as many different perspectives, and I try to interview those people so I can gain that knowledge and understanding as well. So it's a learning process for me too, because 5-6 years ago, I didn't know half the stuff I know. Even 2 years ago, I didn't know half the stuff I know now.
That's awesome, man.
There's a reason why Bitcoin's not $1 million. And it's, if you really think about things from an economic standpoint and how everything works, what it would take for Bitcoin to actually get to that price.
Yeah. Well, I
mean, it's not going to happen, but 2 years ago, I was like, Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million. I didn't have this other knowledge that came into my brain that helped me to realize what it would take for that to occur.
Yeah. Well, and that's fascinating. Some of the guests that you mentioned, I know they are on your channel. So audience, do go check that out. Some of those interviews that are there. Let me fast forward beyond your introduction to crypto, because everybody has their story, right? Where some people are like, oh yeah, I'm ashamed to admit it. My friends were using it on drugs, or I was using it on drugs, or sorry, I was not using it on drugs. I was using it, at a certain time to do something else. So everyone has their awkward adolescent phase in getting acquainted with crypto. Let's fast forward to the point where for you, Rice, you were like, okay, I really can't escape this. Even if I talk about other stuff with my content stream, even if I do other things for work, crypto is it's got me. I'm in, I can't move away from this because it's not going anywhere. So I'm not going anywhere. What did that look like for you?
Honestly, it was so. When I first learned about Bitcoin, it took me a little bit before I decided to actually buy. Probably about 6 months, roughly. When I did, I immediately started learning about some multi-level marketing scams. They didn't look like scams. They didn't seem like they were scams, but the green-eyed monster came in, greed. I was thinking, oh, if I do this, I'm going to have this much money in this amount of time. And when I first got involved in Bitcoin, I saw the disruption it was going to bring to the world. But that wasn't what was important to me when I first bought in. What was important to me was getting more dollars. I wanted to be rich. And I was going to try to do that as quick as hell. And I got screwed over and lost. And basically from that point, I started to want the seed of wanting to create a channel started its process in my brain, because I wanted to educate other people as to avoid these kind of pitfalls that I fell into. I felt like that's the least I could do, is try to educate other people to learn from some of my mistakes.
Got it.
And, and had I actually had a better understanding of economics, even then, 5 years ago, now thinking about it, I would have probably done things differently. But I just, even when I first got involved in Bitcoin, I just had this concept of number go up. I didn't have the concept of number go down. That wasn't in the equation. And then when it became a reality, it was like, oh, damn.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of funny. A mutual of ours, Wendy, she's always urging people to take profits when things are good, and I think everybody needs that. Everybody needs that character in their life. That person that's like, urging you away from the edge of risk. But you need the other person too, who's like, hey, do things that are a little bit risky, right? Within like your risk tolerance. So it's good that you're able to share that experience and have that balance that you promote between risk and reward, right? Like, and mitigating damage. That's awesome, man. Let's talk about some of the big wins that you've had along the way. Since you started getting involved in cryptocurrency, I see you're wearing a shirt that is clearly something you feel strong about. I don't know if that's one of those wins, but we've talked about it before. It's definitely hit my radar because of your advocacy. But what are some of the biggest milestones that you've hit, things that you feel like you'll be proud of 20 years from now, 30 years from now, heck, 60 years from now, whenever it is you retire, right? When they got your brain in a jar and you're thinking back on all of it, what will you be like, yeah, that was great?
Just being really fortunate and blessed with the people that I've interviewed. I've been able to have conversations and develop relationships with, because like when I got involved in crypto, the first altcoin I bought was Litecoin. And I've had a chance to actually hang out with Charlie Lee, the creator of Litecoin, in person, interview him a couple times. That's really fascinating. Being able to meet people that I've looked up to, that have educated me in a plethora of ways, like people like G. Edward Griffin, who wrote The Creature from Jekyll Island. I got to interview Bernard von NotHaus, who was kind of a precursor to Bitcoin in a physical way, where he created something called the Liberty Dollar. And it was a gold, silver backed, I can't call it a note, but it was basically something resembling that. And he ultimately got arrested for counterfeiting and fraud charges. And I think the law that they were using for him to convict him was, for the counterfeiting, was based off an 1860s law that was just basically any sort of currency that comes out that could compete against the US dollar could be considered or competing against a national currency could be considered counterfeit, or would be considered counterfeit. And because of that case, that precedent has now been taken away. And had that precedent not been taken away, a lot of the crypto companies have no clue that the government could have went after them had this precedent not been changed by this OG precursor to crypto. So, I've been very fortunate in being able to interview people like that. Charles Hoskinson, the creator of Cardano, Dmitry Buterin, Vitalik Buterin's dad. I was a big fan of the Dollar Vigilante. I got to meet Jeff Berwick. I have him on my show. Being able to talk to the Crypto Vigilante guys. Sponsors. I'm very thankful for like of course, Presearch is a project that is very near and dear to my heart because it's a way for us to fight big tech and keep our privacy. You I believe is how you did me a favor and brought Colin on the show. Or no, actually,
we're scheduled. We still need to slate that interview, but I am committed.
I think he had to reschedule. So he made his rounds on a couple other people's shows, and then once we start changing around in markets, I want to try to get more sponsorships and things kind of going on with Presearch with other content creators like yourself. But with this project in particular, I've attached myself to it just because of the values. It aligns itself with what I'm doing. And then the most important thing that I think that I've gotten from my journey is being very transparent about what I've learned and what I might have been wrong with, and the fact that I try to stay open-minded to new information that may change how I may have felt about something in the past, and try to stay open to that. And the channel that obviously the channel is so much more than just what I've mentioned, but when I put together just a list of all the people I've interviewed that are at least known, not just some unknown people that nobody's ever heard of, it even impresses myself. With all the crypto people though, and real quick, and this is one of the reasons why I restructured my channel, with all the crypto people that I had interviewed, and I felt by the beginning of 2020, I felt in my own, without being egotistical, that I felt I was one of the better interviewers in the cryptocurrency space, interviewing some of the more higher quality individuals, and I wasn't growing. I wasn't getting any love. I wasn't getting comments, and it was just very disheartening. And it was when I started restructuring and changing my channel, it was like people started commenting on my videos. My channel started growing, and all these other things started transpiring. And it was, it started to change and give me more invigorated focus, because sometimes I felt like I was just wasting my time.
Yeah, I definitely hear that, and I feel that on the on some of the interviews that you mentioned right there. Huge shout out for the Bernard von NotHaus interview. Like, I watched that, and I can say, Mind Your Biz community, if you haven't, that is a must watch interview. He's such an entertaining guy. Like, just like really, he was clearly such an entertaining person to interview. But also the story that you mentioned, the history that you mentioned of being able to set the president and stuff.
He's a trip, because I didn't mention that he started the first cannabis spiritual center in Hawaii, and I believe it was the first one ever created in the United States back in the 90s. So
it's a big deal, man.
Yeah, he's done a lot of very interesting things that would be kind of counterculture.
Yeah, well, and he lives it, man. Anytime you get to talk to an old dog who's clearly punk rock, you got to pick their brain, man, because they survived, right? They managed to make it into late adulthood. So yeah, they did something right. And his case did a lot of things right.
That's another thing too that I do try to interview. I've been trying to put more focus into interviewing older people so that I can help kind of capture that in sort of memory for all of us to be able to remember how some of the things have been that people don't talk about, or that, because like the 70s, like you wouldn't have heard anything about the 70s and inflation had we not re-experienced it recently.
Yeah.
But if you talk to somebody older a few years ago, they would have told you this stuff before we got here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Even people who, even the current, I guess the millennial generation there, even the millennial generation's parents would have been coming of age during an age of kind of relative, like good economy in the 80s and into the 90s, right? The whole like yuppie phenomenon of the 80s, where cash was just like flowing, right? Money was just flowing to a bunch of people who just for showing up, right? Like, oh yeah, I've got skills, but the economy was really good, right? So yeah, no, I hear you there, and I think that's a phenomenal interview you did right there. I just want to call that one out in particular because I remember watching it. I think I even DM'd you. I'm like, man, that was really good. Like, I was so tickled by that interview, and then also the impact. It was anyway. I laughed and I cried. That's what I'm trying to say.
It was something actually really cool. I don't know if you had a chance to check it out. So when I mentioned the thing about the precedent for the counterfeiting law getting changed, that was something that Bernard didn't include. Bernard's getting old, so and I think he was actually diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And when I was interviewing him and talking to him, I was thinking he might have been in the early stages, which most people with Alzheimer's or even early stages, you're really good with your long-term memory. It's your short-term memory that people usually mess up with. So he was able to recollect pretty much most everything that happened. But there was that one piece that he didn't talk about that I didn't know about the precedent being changed with that counterfeiting law. I interviewed his son because his son has a project. And I would encourage people to check out the interview. I wouldn't necessarily encourage people to invest in his project unless they do their own research, because he's doing the Liberty Dollar too. And it's using cryptocurrency instead of a warehouse receipt. And it's backed by silver. Had I thought we were going to talk about it, I would have. I actually got 2 silver pieces, one from Bernard and one from his son. The actual physical silver pieces that you can get.
Nice. Well, how about this?
Like, so you could take the token and turn it in.
That's super cool, man. Yes, it's a convertible silver-backed crypto dollar. That's great. Like, I'm oversimplifying it there, but let's do this. Why don't I, like, for the benefit of the Metaverse audience, guys, I'm going to do a little insert. We might do a little pickup shot afterwards where Rice grabs that silver piece if he's got some time, and that way you can see it. Or he'll send me like a snapshot of it from his phone or something, so you get a nice high-res version of that. But I will do. Yeah,
I'll send you a picture of it if you want to add that in the edit. I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, no, I'd love to see it too. Like, so we've got precedent for things like that. My lights
and it being a silver coin, I don't know how it's going to show up on the camera.
Yeah. No, let's get a nice high res version of that. But I just mean to say, like, there's precedent for there being any kind of like gold backed or other commodity backed cryptocurrencies. I'm not going to name names, but we know there are a handful of these, right? So like, it's not like this hasn't been done, and having like crypto securities and having there be a proper method for launching crypto securities or commodity backed cryptos, which by any other name is a security, like you're guaranteeing that you have secured backing for it. Like, this is a thing that happens now, right? You can do a registered security offering on a blockchain, on a cryptocurrency, and get the audits and the attestations, and that's super cool that they've kept that in the family.
You're saying, though, by backing a token by a commodity to make it stay stable, even though there's not a return on an investment, meaning they profit from it, which is usually how most people define it as security. Do you still define it as a security? Because that's one of the the SEC.
I'm not the SEC. Yeah, I'm not the SEC, so I can't.
Trying to say that stable coins would fall underneath their jurisdiction, and to me, I was like, well, there's no profit involved because people don't buy USDC and Tether and DAI to make more US dollars.
Right. But yeah, what I'm getting at is that when there is specie, half the reason, at least half the reason that the U.S. government, and I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, it seems like the reason they got out of the business of issuing specie or partially, partially specie alloys, right, in the currency in the United States is because it was too profitable for retail, right? So even though people didn't have that as like, it wasn't the purpose of minting a 10-cent piece that had silver in it wasn't for people to be able to speculate on the price of 10 cents and see their pre-1964 dimes turned into a small fortune. So the U.S. government said, well, can't have that, whack, no more of that. I'm just suggesting that when you do have a precious or semi-precious backing for something that you're calling a dollar, unless you have some other way to peg the value of your reserve into some other dollar, it does seem like it gets more complex. Is all I'm saying. So
it would fluctuate. It would definitely. Especially be like you had a coin and you did it based off an ounce of silver. And then the price of silver is obviously fluctuating in and of itself. So if you were to try to have a fraction of that be a dollar, it would have to be a certain amount of coins that would represent a dollar. And that would change constantly, which doesn't make it very stable.
Right. Right. Yeah. Not
the
output,
at all. I guess, could be, but just to keep it the correct backing, which I don't think any stable coin really, maybe aside from USDC for now, has been 100% transparent about having dollar for dollar backing, not other commodities or T-bills or all these other things, but actually dollar for dollar.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to have another stream where we talk just about like dollars, and I'll get a little more educated on the topic.
I know,
That's
going
that
off
for me.
topic.
Yeah, no, but I appreciate it. This is why I love your content, homie. This is the business. People need to know more about this. It's true. So let's talk a little bit about upcoming dates. I know we're coming up on an hour here in the interview, and well, not quite, but we're going a little longer than I told you I would take from your schedule. So
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah, but upcoming
stuff going on too.
Yeah, upcoming dates for Rice TVX or just for Rice. Like, what's coming up that you're excited about and that people can look forward to from the Mind Your Biz community and go support you in doing?
Well, as far as interviews, I don't have like anything that was pre-scheduled that I'm really excited to announce at this time, but just stay tuned for my channel. As far as public appearances, like we talked about, I am going to be going to the Litecoin Summit, which is going to be taking place on October 20th and now I'm getting dates. No, October 21st and 22nd. And then there is Coin Agenda, which is the 22nd and 23rd. It's a weekend in Las Vegas. There's going to be a meetup taking place on the 20th in Vegas, the day before the Litecoin Summit. I'm going to be a part of a panel with Tom Crown and Wendy, mutual friends of ours. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I'm planning on being at Decentral, and I think that's beginning of December. Last year was end of November, beginning of December. I think it's the very beginning of December this year. So I plan on attending that. And not sure about anything else as far as date-wise, but definitely paying attention to everything that's happening and trying to stay on top of current events, stay on top of the things in cryptocurrency that matter to me and my audience.
Awesome. Well, Rice, I really appreciate you being on the channel. What question did I not ask that I should have asked? Because I don't want to look back on this interview and be like, you know what, I had this golden opportunity to ask Rice any question and I failed. Like, what should I be asking?
I'm actually thinking there might have been one person since I've rebranded that actually took time to want to know what the X is in Rice TVX.
Okay.
But since you didn't ask, I'm not going to answer it. Now you can ask, and now everybody's just going to have to wonder, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Well, X is a mysterious letter, so I think it's probably for the best, right? You guys, it's the mystery element, and you have to go ask them in the comment section over when you subscribe. So do go smash subscribe over on Rice TVX and keep your eyes peeled for when Rice launches maybe some other mystery stuff. Maybe it's Rice XY. Rice double X? Rice triple X?
No, actually, I will tell you something cool that I haven't shared publicly yet. Because I'm toying with ideas for what I want to call the other channel. And it would be for the Stranger Than Fiction style content, but I don't want to use that name. So, and I like using my own name, not for ego reasons, but it's good for branding. And so what I'm considering is, and see if you get the whole gist of it. Rice against the grain.
It's good. It's good, man. That's the thing, man. You were born with such a great brand. Like, it's not egotistical. It's just facts. So that's phenomenal right there. Yeah. Rice against the grain makes sense. It's good because, no, it's great. It requires no explanation at all. It's all self-contained there, man.
Right.
No, I hope that is something that we see in the near future.
I did consider Rice TV X-Files, which is so stupid. But so we're not going there. But
well, that and YouTube being what it is, they'd be like, yeah, delete. They look for any reason, man. So yeah, why tempt them?
Well, it would be fodder anyways, because and something I will recommend to you, get on other platforms. And I know you're busy. So look for other platforms where you can sync your YouTube channel. I don't think you're on Odyssey.
So Mind Your Biz Classic is on Odyssey. The new channel is not. So I need to sync it to a new channel because you cannot sync two YouTube channels to one Odyssey channel.
I don't believe you can unless maybe you talk to them and find out if there's something they can make an exception on. I don't know. You're a content creator. If it's possible, maybe they can make it happen. But Rumble I don't know when they added it, but you can do a YouTube sync. And for me, you can actually go back to a certain date. So I didn't do my entire channel. I just went from January 1st, 2020 onward, and it automatically is transferring my content over. And a lot of people are putting attention into Rumble as an alternative to YouTube. They've got money and they're promoting free speech and they're making deals with big podcasters and influencers. I think Russell Brand's going to be doing some dedicated stuff over there.
I saw that. Yeah, after he had something taken down unexpectedly, and he was very vocal about moving to Rumble.
Yeah. Now I don't think he's going to move completely, but there's some deal that's being worked out, and more of that's happening. So I would just encourage you to get on as many other platforms as you can, just to cover your assets, basically. And then I'm saying that also to encourage people to follow me on other platforms, because if they do like the stranger than fiction style content, I'm definitely going to be dealing with a lot of challenges from YouTube. And that's part of the reason why I want to split the channel up, because I don't want anything to affect what allows me to do this full time, which is the cryptocurrency.
Fair enough. Well, Rice, definitely appreciate your time. Looking forward to the Stranger Than Fiction style content, whether it is Rice Against the Grain or it's something else. We're sure it's going to be phenomenal when it does launch. The branding, the content, the guests, everything is going to be it's going to be worth the price of admission, man. What does it cost you guys? Subscribe, click bell icon, follow it in all the other alternative platforms. It's worth the extra 2 minutes that you're going to take to do that. So follow the links you see down below in the description. And anything else, any of the places that you are found and that you are most commonly active that people should follow you?
If people do like alternative platforms and they're trying to get away from mainstream platforms where we are dealing with a lot of censorship, like your Facebooks and your Twitters, I would encourage people to check out flote.app, FLOTE.app. It's a great platform. I'm pretty much mirroring what I'm doing on other platforms. I do a lot of copy and pasting because one-man team can't really sit here and customize every single post that I'm doing. But it is a platform that I'm active on, and I definitely encourage people to utilize. And it's another place that promotes free speech.
Okay, awesome. Well, Rice, thank you again. Definitely appreciate you. And yeah, I hope to see you very soon. Not in Las Vegas, unfortunately, but hope to see you in person very, very soon.